Now we're on chapter 15, which is called, oh dear, Things Get Worse. Joe Starr didn't return my call about Lavender's tire all evening. "I've told you, Mo," Miss Retzel finally said as she answered my third call. "Joe's investigating a bank robbery. He'll see Lavender at the cafe in the morning. Think about something else. Why don't you do your homework?" We had homework? "I already did it," I said, and hung up. By the breakfast rush, news of the robbery had topped the gossip list. Lavender flowed in, NASCAR handsome, and the Azalea women circled like buzzards. "Lavender," one said, laying a flashy hand on his arm, "I'm glad you're here. I'd love to use Rose's produce, but plans change. Tell her to cancel my order. She'll understand." She caught wind of the Simpsons canceling, I thought. Her friend's gaze flicked over Lavender. "Cancel mine, too." "And mine." Miss Lana closed her eyes. "I do not curse," she said, "but those women make me want to learn how." Lavender swung onto a stool. "Don't change for them, Miss Lana," he said, giving her a break-my-heart smile. "I couldn't stand it if you did." She poured his coffee. "On the house," she said, "and the Underbird needs a tune-up." "Thanks, but I tuned it up last week," he said. "It needs another one," she insisted as Starr sauntered in and read the specials board. "Collard quiche." "Just coffee, Lana. Sorry I couldn't come sooner, Lavender," he said. He took the pale blue note Lavender offered him, carefully holding it at the corner, like I'd forgot to do. "Recognize the handwriting?" Lavender shook his head. "But that tire slit. I pulled it and checked. You can pick it up for evidence if you want it." Capers looked up from her omelet. "That ain't for the papers," I said, and she winked. Starr slipped the note into a clear bag. "My fingerprints are on that note," I told Starr as Miss Lana splashed his cup and headed down the counter. "Also Lavender's, Dale's, Harm's, and Sam's." "And the twins," Lavender added, looking sheepish. "Great," Starr muttered. "Any idea who wants to hurt you?" Lavender shook his head. "Flick wants to race me, so not him unless he's realized he's going to lose. And no matter what he said, there's no reason for Macon to hurt me, if he's even here." I pointed to a table of strangers, and thanks to Capers' news stories, we got a bumper crop of suspects in town. Stars stood up. "Listen up," he said, his voice stifling the cafe chatter. "I'm passing around an evidence bag with a note in it. Don't open the bag. Just see if you recognize the handwriting." He sent it down the counter. Thess shook his head, passed it on. "No, no, no." Down the counter and then to the tables. "How long till you get the ballistics report on the gun used in the bank robbery?" I asked. "Not long. I'll let you know if it matches the pistol from the jailbreak." "That would tie Macon Johnson in for sure," Capers murmured, sipping her coffee. Miss Lana glanced at the clock. "Time for school," she called. Every kid in the cafe stood up and scratched for money. Thess dropped his cash by his plate and shot out the door as Miss Lana handed me a tiny package from the freezer. "Here you go, sugar," she said. "Good luck making nice with this. Tell him to keep it cold." "Thanks," I said, dropping it into my messenger bag. Lavender smiled at an Azalea woman. "I can get to your car today," he said. "That won't be necessary," she said, cutting her bacon as careful as if she were doing brain surgery. "You?" he asked the woman beside her, and she shook her head. Capers gave him a smile. "My motorcycle?" He headed for the door. "Your parts got caught in the Chicago snowstorms, but it looks like they'll be in tomorrow. Looks like your bike will get my undivided attention." He smiled, but that smile didn't find his eyes. Starr tossed a 5 on the counter. "Get a lock for your garage," he told Lavender, "and use it. I'll stop by for the tire." "Everybody seen the note?" he asked, looking around the cafe. "Over here," Tinks Williams said, passing it on. Mayor Little read it, gasped, and knocked his chamomile tea to the floor. He looked around the cafe, his face white as the napkin tucked into his collar. "This is Mother's note paper," he said. She's a murderer, and I never suspected a thing." "Idiots," Mrs. Little said a few minutes later, as Star and me settled on her sofa. She could be right. I glanced at her clock. 20 minutes until school starts, and Miss Retzel hates tardy like St. Pete, hates gate crashers. But Dale would never forgive me if I passed up this chance as a break in our pitiful case. I smiled. Mrs. Little is the oldest, meanest person in Tupelo Landing. She almost liked me a couple of months back, but a fondness like peanut butter has a shelf life. She sat back in her rocker like a queen vulture, the sunlight glinting off her lemony bun as she examined the note. I tried to picture her slithering beneath a Monte Carlo and slitting a tire. Nothing happened. "Right front tire slit?" she said, glaring at Star. "Do you think I can't spell?" The person who wrote the note said "right," R-I-T-E, instead of R-I-G-H-T. "You spell excellent," I said, "but is it your notepaper?" "Excellently. I have notepapers like this, so do a million other people," she said, hooking a small drawer of her writing desk and pulling it open. An army of blood-red pens lay beside her papers. "What are you accusing me of?" "Nothing," Star said, "but I'd like to search your home, if you don't mind." "Search Mrs. Little's house?" The hair on my arm stood up. "I have to go," I said, jumping to my feet. "I can't stand being late for school." "Liar," she said, jabbing a finger at me. I shot through the thorny plants that make up her yard, grabbed my bike, and pedaled like I was racing for heaven. Dale loitered by the bike rack. "Did you bring the puppy list?" I asked. He patted his backpack. "I'm ready." He sniffed. "What stinks? Is that you?" "It's a peace offering for Thess," I said, as Harm rocketed up. "Listen, Star's checking the ballistics on the gun used in the robbery, and Mrs. Little's owns blue notepaper like in the toolbox, but she doesn't have the same pens. Not with her paper, anyway. Star's searching her house now." "Brave man," Harm said, grinning. "Understatement," I said. "We'll pump him for information if he survives." Thess wandered by. His father had turned the church in Dale's favor with his forgiveness sermon. I didn't want Thess turning it back. Here goes nothing, I thought, and tried to look sorry. "Thess," I said, "please accept my apology for my oral mistake. I hope you will forgive me, which your father says is good." "Here," I said, lifting Miss Lana's freezer packet from the messenger bag. "For Spitz. Nothing says I'm sorry. I called you ugly, like liver." He wrinkled his nose. "Thanks," he said, looking like I'd handed him a bag of liver, which I had. "I've been thinking about that sermon, too, and—" He looked at me. "I forgive you, Mo. Spitz does, too. We'd love to go to a movie with you." He looked at Dale, and he walked away. He was a start, anyway. As we slung ourselves into our seats, Thess twisted in his desk. "Damn," he whispered. "Are you posting the puppy list soon? I'd like to talk to you first." Dale put a pack of rubber bands on his desk. "Stress relievers. Miss Lana says worriers mostly wear rubber bands like bracelets and pop them against their wrists when frazzled. Dale does it different. He zinged a rubber band, barely missing Attila's replacement turkey earrings." "Announcements?" Miss Retzel called. Attila raised her hand. "I wish it was career day," she said. She turned to Dale. "Your father could talk about robbing my house. That would be fascinating." Zing! A tap at the door. Capers stepped in, clasping her notebook and a takeout bag. "Sorry to interrupt. Mo forgot her lunch." Collared quiche. Like the Colonel says, not everything left behind is forgotten. "Capers," Miss Retzel said, placing my lunch on her desk. "We'd love to know more about your work. We don't meet many reporters in Tupelo Landing." Yeah, she said. "We could talk Fourth Amendment issues or..." Attila sniffed. You mean First Amendment issues, freedom of the press. What do you know about Macon Johnson? Miss Retzel opened her grade book and picked up her red pen. Attila shrank away. Red ink is to Attila as water is to the Wicked Witch. We'll find a time for a school visit then, Capers, Miss Retzel said, smiling. Capers bolted, dropping her notebook. It exploded in a flurry of pages. She scooped them up and ran, but not before one lonely page swirled beneath Miss Retzel's desk. Suck-up points. I smiled and waited for the bell. Remember, Miss Retzel said, and I practiced to see how long I could go without blinking, whenever you solve a problem, check to make sure you know the givens, what's true. If you have the wrong givens, you'll end up with the wrong answer. Mo, she said, blink. The lunch bell sounded. I zipped over and slid my toe beneath her desk. Capers dropped this, I said. I'll be glad to return it with your regards. Thanks, she said, handing me my so-called lunch. I live to serve, I replied, and trailed Harm and Dale into the lunchroom. Attila and her posse sat at the popular table. We headed for the detectives' table. Dale looked over as I opened the note. What you got? Hopefully it's the numbers game we wanted to show Harm. I looked at the paper. Crud. It's a messy letter dated 2/6, February 6th. February? Harm said. This is November. Sal scooted in beside Dale. Hello, Dale. What's that? She leaned closer. Why are you walking around with a 2/6 word code, Mo? My world screamed into a backspin. A what? A 2/6 word code, she said, stabbing her milk with a straw. See, she said, pointing to the numbers at the top of the page. It says so right here. This is a very old cipher. The 2 means start with the second word. The 6 means use every sixth word. Where'd you get this? Capers dropped it. She ran her finger along the page. Maybe she codes notes to her editor to keep nosy people from reading them. She's trying to work out the code here. This must be her rough draft. Her finger trailed down. And down here, she gets it. I'll read you the entire message, and then the hidden one. She smoothed the page and read, Darling, I am alone here, but not too slow to settle in. I do hope you can send me some letters, just little messages about your own sweet life, as I am bored with mine. Arranged with Lana to pay cash. Babe. Capers doesn't talk like that, Harm said. Who's Babe? Dale leaned close. So when you put it all together, Sal plucked a pencil from behind her ear, skipped a word, and underlined every sixth word. I am in. Send messages as arranged. Babe. Wow, Harm said. What are you, a genius or something? I guess this could be to her editor, Sal said, blushing. But why sign it Babe? Skeeter beelined for the popular table. What's Skeeter doing at Attila's table? I muttered. Office assistants don't eat with sixth graders. Hold on. I'll read Skeeter's lips for you, Dale said, squinting. Looks like Anna's hit a foul ball. More like Anna has a phone call, Harm said as Attila followed Skeeter out. Dale unwrapped his brownie, broke it, and gave half to Sal. I'm sorry about the puppy committee disaster. I was wrong. Sal blotted the crumbs from his waxed paper. You're under stress, Dale. It's okay. But don't do it again. She looked at me. Are you giving that letter back to Capers? Never betray a teacher's trust when you can get caught, I said, opening my collared quiche. I'll give it to her as soon as Skeeter makes us a copy. Attila strolled in after lunch, smirking. Not a good sign. I have an announcement from Mother, but I'll wait till the end of class. She's angling for maximum impact, I whispered. Dale frowned. Angling for what? The afternoon crept by. Language arts homework, Miss Retzel finally said. I tried to will the clock to move faster. 15 minutes to freedom. Who can define a metaphor? Dale, who sat studying his puppy list, slid low in his seat. Harm? Harm shifted his long legs. Thanks for thinking I might be able to do that, he said. A metaphor is something poets use to walk ideas across paper. Sal raised her hand so hard she practically levitated. Miss Retzel, I wrote one. Dale's smile strolls barefoot across my lonesome porch. She blushed. Wonderful, Miss Retzel cried. You turned a smile into a barefoot visitor. Hopeless, Attila muttered. Here's mine. Mr. Macon's guilt rises like a putrid fog over a cesspool. Simile! I shouted, pointing at her. She said like a putrid fog. I don't care, Attila bellowed. Mother called. She's offering a reward for Mr. Macon's capture and the return of our things. $2,000. She looked around the classroom. Think what you could do with that much money. The classroom erupted. Daddy didn't do it, Dale yelled over the din. Leave us alone. Something had to change, fast. I leaned over, grabbed his puppy list, and headed for the bulletin board. Thank you, Anna. The desperados look forward to collecting the reward and throwing a class party. The Exums applauded. Now for today's really important news. The puppy list is posted, I said, pinning it to the board. The room's attention swarmed to it like fruit flies to an old banana. We got 6 names, but we may add more. Our sympathy to the unlisted. Who's on it? Hannah asked. Did little Agnes make the cut? Miss Retzel sighed. You might as well read it, Mo. I skimmed the notice. Puppy list. Sal, Skeeter, Lil Agnes and Hannah, Jimmy and Jake, maybe, but don't get your hopes up. I would, I said, but I like to foster my reading skills on my classmates. She's afraid unlisted kids will kill her before she makes the door, Attila said. True. That's a lie, I replied, as Harm and Dale stuffed their books in their backpacks and perched on the edges of their seats, ready to run. The bell rang. The class stampeded the board. Dale, Harm, and me shot to the door. I gazed at the cloud-heavy sky and shivered. The cafe's the closest safe haven, I shouted. Ride like the wind! And that is the end of chapter 15.